This is the Fresh Approach Daily Drill, level number 2. In this video lesson, I'm just going to cover some of the basics that I include in this level for the snare drum and then on keyboard. So not a whole lot different here. We're kind of using the same techniques that we used in level 1. In the first 4 lines, we're reinforcing our rebound stroke, but we're alternating different types of sticking combinations. If you look at the first line, you'll notice that there is a double and 2 singles. Diddle para, diddle para. So it's the same sticking all the way through, but we want to make sure that we're thinking of that diddle para, diddle para, diddle para, diddle para. All right? Playing along with the play along track in this lesson is pretty simple. It's very slow, so really concentrate on every single stroke, making sure that every one of them goes straight up and down. You hit the center of the pad or the drum, whichever you're playing on, and that you're using just enough velocity, force, speed of stroke to get the stick to rebound. No arm motion, okay? We just want to throw the stick at the head with the wrist. We want to keep these back fingers from choking the stick. So I don't want this stroke where my back fingers keep the stick secure in the palm of the hand. I want this kind of stroke to where the stick is free in the back fingers. All right? Line number 2 is another paradiddle variation. These are combination of paradiddle stickings. It's a permutation, I should say. In the second one, the diddle is in the middle. So a diddle, pair, a diddle, pair, a diddle. All right, so you can think of the sticking right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Or you can think of your paradiddle sticking starting on the a diddle, pair, a diddle, pair, a diddle, pair, a diddle. Think of where the diddle falls in the set of 4 notes. And then number 3 is our standard paradiddle. So the diddle has moved from the first 2 to the second 2, now to the last 2. All right, hopefully you're hearing that every one of those strokes sound the same, which is very important. And line number 4 is probably the hardest, where the diddle falls on the outside. So right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right. So the diddle is at the end. So that might take a minute to practice just a couple of times just to get really comfortable with where that diddle falls. Left, left, right, right, diddle, para, diddle, para, diddle. All right, you can say paradiddle, you can say the sticking to yourself. I really encourage you with all of these is to play along with the play along track, making sure that you're listening to the subdivision, you're listening to the groove, and you're playing with the groove. Don't think too hard about counting, because there's no counting. It's all, every beat that you're playing is with the groove. But if you think about, if you can hear those subdivisions, that's going to help you become a much better drummer who can play in time and can play with the groove. All right, when we get to line number 5 and 6, we're working on our double strokes again. So the doubles subdivide the beat into 2 parts. So whenever I have 8th notes, double, double, 3, 4, double, double, 3, 4. That just divides that beat into 2 parts. Double, double, 3, 4. Double, double, 3, 4. As you're playing those first 2 measures of line 5, And that's just the first two measures kind of over and over again. We're really thinking of getting that really good velocity and two distinct strokes behind our double stroke. Measure 3 and 4 is the same thing, but I add an extra diddle. So diddle, 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 left. Diddle, 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 left. So I'm using a lot of velocity. I do want that big stroke all the way up, not down here, but all the way up here, so that way I can really start training my muscles to make that big double stroke. All right, and I'm also listening, watching my hands to make sure I'm playing in the center and making sure that both hands sound the same. When you get to line number 6, notice that the diddles are in the middle. 1, diddle, diddle, 4. 1, diddle, diddle, 4. So it's this sticking all the way through, but I add in some diddles. All right, sticks always come back to the up position. That's just going to reinforce. We're not always going to play like that, but that's just going to reinforce our rebound stroke and the concept of throwing the stick and having it jump back up. Line number 7 is our multiple bounce. Now we worked on our half note bounces in the previous level. In this level, the bounces become quarter notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would practice the first two measures of line number 7 a few times until you get that fulcrum pressure that's necessary to get that right stick bouncing, making sure there's no space between the bounce and the tap. So practice that a bit, and then measures 3 and 4, we move the bounce to our left hand. Now, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, or if you haven't been playing for very long, that left hand bounce might not be as good as your right hand. So if you're getting that kind of bounce, then you need to spend some time on your own practicing. Okay, a couple of tips that I can give you is making sure that you're just using fulcrum pressure. You're not squeezing the stick with the back fingers, all right? This kills the bounce every single time. You also want to keep the fingers wrapped around the stick. We don't want, okay? We don't want the back fingers floating off. You're not drinking tea. We want to keep those back fingers wrapped around, but making sure there's always space here for the stick to bounce. And then the last thing is just to make sure that you're not using too much fulcrum pressure or dragging your hand here. We want to make sure that it stays right in the center. So when you get to line number 8, it's quarter notes, but the first measure is so 4 bounces should all connect together. Buzz, 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 tap, 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 tap. Buzz, 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 buzz. Should all sound long bounces. Not one long and one short, but both of them starting and ending into the next bounce. All right? Practice on that. I really encourage you to use full strokes on your multiple bounces at this point. All right? Eventually, your multiple bounces, as you get faster, and they turn into a roll, they're not going to be all the way up here. But right now, what you're learning is that important amount of fulcrum pressure that you need to push the stick into the head. Just enough, not too little, and not too much. Just the right amount of fulcrum pressure to make that multiple bounce. All right, and then when we get to line number 9 and 10, we're doing our reading exercises. So in the last level, I told you the sticking is really important. What we're developing here is not only reading, these are not very hard reading lines, but what we're doing is we're learning how to get used to this right hand lead system. So I'm thinking right hand on 1 and 3, left hand on 2 and 4. So whenever I have a rest, I'm taking out the hand that would play that note. 1, 2, 3, 4, half note, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, half note, 3, 4. So that's why the sticking is right, right, left, right, right, left, right. Now, it may seem like it's useless at this tempo. Why not just alternate everything? But what we're going to do over the course of time, over the many levels, is gradually increase or decrease our note values to where we really have to be very good at that sticking. Once you get to that high level, those stickings have to be just a natural part of what you do every day. So work through each line, making sure that you can do it before you try it with the accompaniment track. But after you can play those, keep in your head all of those things that you really should be paying attention to, because part of this is to warm up your hands, of course. But most of the reason to do a daily drill is to reinforce the proper technique. We're going to progressively get harder all the way through these levels, so you want to make sure that you're reinforcing it perfectly, building that foundation so that we can continue to add new and more exciting techniques in the future. So practice on the snare drum part. It's only about 4 minutes long, okay? You can take in Pad Lab and speed that up, or you can slow it way down depending on the level that you're playing, okay? But make sure that you really perfect that. Then go to the keyboard exercises and learn the keyboard part with the keyboard video lesson.